The roar of my truck's engine was the only sound accompanying me on that dark and lonely night in Texas. The dashboard lights glowed faintly, casting strange shadows across the interior of the cab. I had been on the road for over 12 hours, delivering a load of electronics to Dallas. Fatigue was beginning to weigh on my eyes, but I knew I had to keep going. The highway stretched out before me like a black ribbon under the starry Texas sky. There were no other souls in sight, just the vastness of the desert and occasional twisted shrubs that seemed to writhe in the shadows. The radio hissed, unable to pick up any station in that desolate stretch. Suddenly, something caught my attention, a figure by the side of the road. As I got closer, I realized it was a human figure, a woman. She was standing still, her white dress fluttering gently in the night breeze. My heart raced. Who the hell would be standing in the middle of nowhere at this time of night? I slowed down, hesitant. Part of me wanted to stop and offer help, but another part screamed at me to keep going. Something about the scene didn't feel right. The woman slowly turned toward me, and that's when I felt a chill run down my spine. Her face. There was no face. Where there should have been eyes, a nose, and a mouth, there was only a smooth, pale surface, as if made of wax. I slammed my foot on the accelerator, my heart pounding against my chest. The truck roared, leaving the figure behind in seconds. What the hell was that? I murmured to myself, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I tried to convince myself it was just a hallucination caused by fatigue, but the image of that faceless figure was etched into my mind. Miles passed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The air inside the cab felt heavier, and I could swear I heard whispers coming from the cargo hold behind me. I tried turning on the radio again, desperate for any sound other than the roar of the engine and my own ragged breathing. That's when I saw the lights. They weren't the headlights of another vehicle, but a strange, pulsating glow on the horizon. As I got closer, I realized it was a small town by the side of the road. I didn't remember seeing any town on this route before, but at that moment, any sign of civilization seemed like a relief. I slowed down as I entered the town. The streets were deserted, the houses and shops dark and silent. A faded sign announced, "Welcome to Hollow Creek Population, 666. The number made me swallow hard. What kind of town would use that number on its welcome sign? I stopped in front of a gas station, the only place that seemed to show any sign of life. A faint light flickered intermittently above the fuel pumps. I turned off the engine and climbed out of the cab, my legs aching after so many hours of sitting. The silence was oppressive. Not even the sound of crickets or the distant howl of a coyote. Nothing but the occasional metallic creak of the gas station sign swaying in the wind. I walked over to the convenience store, my footsteps echoing disturbingly on the empty asphalt. The door chimed as I entered. The interior was lit by flickering fluorescent lights, casting strange shadows across the aisles. There was no one behind the counter. "Hello," I called out, my voice sounding strangely loud in the silence. No response. I walked down the aisles, picking up a few cereal bars and a bottle of water. As I moved through the store, I noticed something odd on the shelves. The products looked old. The packaging had designs I hadn't seen in decades, and the expiration dates were all from years ago. A sudden movement out of the corner of my eye made me turn sharply. For an instant, I thought I saw someone or something moving at the end of the aisle, but when I looked directly, there was nothing there. "Is someone there?" I called again, feeling my heart race. Silence. I decided it was time to leave. I left the money on the counter and quickly headed for the exit. That's when I noticed the newspaper. It was lying on the counter, yellowed with age. The headline made me freeze in place. "Tragedy in Hollow Creek. Entire town mysteriously disappears." The date on the newspaper was from 50 years ago. My blood ran cold. I ran out of the store, my heart threatening to leap out of my throat. What the hell was happening? When I reached my truck, I stopped abruptly. There was someone or something standing beside it. It was the faceless woman I had seen on the road. She was there, motionless, her white dress now dirty and torn. And she wasn't alone. Around her, Dozens of other figures began to emerge from the shadows. Men, women, children, all with the same smooth, featureless faces. They started moving toward me, their movements jerky and inhuman. I wanted to scream, but the terror had frozen my voice. With trembling fingers, I managed to open the cab door and throw myself inside. I turned the key in the ignition, praying for the engine to start. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then, with a roar, the truck came to life. I slammed my foot on the accelerator, the tires screeching on the asphalt as I sped away. In the rearview mirror, I saw the faceless figures chasing the truck, their arms outstretched as if they wanted to drag me back. But they soon fell behind, disappearing into the darkness. I drove like a madman, my heart pounding so hard that I could hear it above the roar of the engine. Hours passed, and finally, the first rays of the sun began to paint the horizon in shades of pink and orange. When I finally arrived in Dallas, I was exhausted and trembling. I delivered the load and immediately looked for a hotel. I needed to rest to try to process what had happened. In the hotel room, I turned on the TV, desperate for some distraction. That's when I saw the news. Mystery in Texas. Ghost town reappears after 50 years. My blood ran cold again. The report showed aerial footage of Hollow Creek, the same town where I had stopped. According to the reporter, the town had been found intact, as if time had stood still, but completely deserted. I turned off the TV, my mind spinning. What had I witnessed? Ghosts? A time warp? Or something even more sinister? In the days that followed, I tried to tell my story, but no one believed me. The authorities investigated Hollow Creek but found nothing more than an abandoned town. No sign of the faceless beings, no evidence of the terror I had experienced. Eventually, I went back on the road. I had bills to pay after all, but something had changed. Every night drive, every lonely stretch of road, I felt invisible eyes watching me. And sometimes, in the darkest corners of the rearview mirror, I swore I could see a smooth, featureless face staring back at me. Now, whenever I hit the road, especially at night, I can't shake the feeling that I'm being followed. That those creatures from Hollow Creek are still out there, waiting to take me back to that cursed town, to make me one of them. And the question that haunts me, that keeps me awake during long nights on the road, is, will they ever catch up to me? The life of a trucker was never the same for me. Every stop, every unknown town, every figure by the side of the road now carries the possibility of terror. My colleagues noticed the change. They say I'm paranoid, that I need a vacation. But they don't know. They didn't see what I saw. Sometimes, when I'm driving late at night and the fatigue starts to weigh me down, I see things. Shadows that move in impossible ways. Faces that appear and disappear in the windows of houses along the road. And always that feeling of being watched followed. I've tried changing routes, avoiding Texas altogether. But no matter where I go, the feeling follows me. It's as if Hollow Creek left a mark on me, a connection I can't break. One night, about 6 months after the incident, I received a strange call on my cell phone. The number was unknown, and when I answered, I heard only static. But behind the static, I could swear I heard voices whispering, voices that said my name. Since then, things have only gotten worse. I started receiving letters in my mailbox, empty envelopes, with no return address, just the name Hollow Creek stamped in the corner. Inside, nothing but blank pages. But when I hold them up to the light, I sometimes see shadows moving in the paper's fibers. I sought help. Psychiatrists, parapsychologists, even an exorcist. No one could give me answers. Some suggest it's all a product of my imagination, post-traumatic stress from some event my brain blocked out. Others believe me but don't know how to help. My dreams are haunted by visions of Hollow Creek. I see myself walking through its empty streets, calling for help, but my voice makes no sound. And always those faceless figures watching me, slowly approaching. I've reached a point where I don't know what's real and what's imagination anymore. Did I really experience something supernatural that night in Texas? Or am I slowly losing my sanity, creating an elaborate nightmare to fill some void in my lonely trucker life? The only thing I know for sure is that I can't stop. If I stop, they'll catch up to me. So I keep driving night after night, mile after mile. The roads have become both my refuge and my prison. And so I continue, a man haunted by the shadows of a town that shouldn't exist, pursued by creatures that defy logic. Every time I turn on my truck's engine, I don't know if I'm fleeing from danger or driving straight toward it. But what else can I do? The road is my life, my livelihood. And now, maybe, it's the only thing keeping me sane, or what's slowly driving me mad. So if you ever find yourself driving down a lonely road in Texas and see a truck speeding by, know that it might be me, fleeing from memories, from nightmares, from creatures that shouldn't exist. And if you see a small town appear on the horizon, a town that seems out of place and out of time, I beg you, don't stop. No matter how tired or curious you are, just keep driving, because Hollow Creek is waiting. And once it catches you, it never completely lets you go. Sometimes, on the darkest and loneliest nights, when the silence of the road is broken only by the monotonous sound of tires on asphalt, I wonder, what if I just stopped? What if I let them catch up to me? Maybe, just maybe, it could put an end to this endless torment. But then I remember the smooth faces, the whispering voices, the feeling of absolute terror I felt that night in Hollow Creek. And I know I can't give up. I can't surrender to whatever these things are. So I keep going, mile after mile, state after state. My eyes always on the rearview mirror, always looking for signs of those faceless figures. My ears always alert to the slightest whisper or strange noise coming from the cargo hold. Sometimes I think about leaving this life behind, abandoning the roads, settling down somewhere far from Texas, far from any memory of Hollow Creek. But something tells me that no matter where I go, they'll find me, that this nightmare will follow me to the end of my days. So here I am, a man trapped between two worlds, the real world, made of asphalt, diesel, and long, lonely nights, and the other world, a realm of shadows and terror that lurks at the edges of reality, always waiting, always watching for a moment of weakness. If you're reading this, maybe it's just the delirium of a man on the brink of madness. Or maybe it's a warning, a caution to keep your eyes open when you're on the road, especially at night, because there are things out there, things that defy understanding. And if you ever pass a sign that says, "Welcome to Hollow Creek," do as I say. Don't stop. Don't look back. Just drive like your life depends on it. Because, believe me, it does.